Hello and welcome to Just Onside. It's been a long time, but we're back. Uwais, how are you?
I'm doing good, Ayub. I'm fine. Thank you so much. How are you bearing up? And I mean that in every sense of the word.
Well, probably there's thoughts with the viewers thinking that there's a reason why we've not shot because Leeds got beaten. Obviously, I was very depressed, but it wasn't the case. I was quite happy to shoot, but we had technical issues at my end. My camera didn't work, so we've not shot for a week and a half, 2 weeks. But there's lots that's happened. And obviously, we've got to start off with Leeds. So you're going to have to indulge me on that because I think it's got to a stage where I'm quite at peace with it. It was extremely depressing, but I told you right from the get-go that Farke was not the man that was going to take us to the promised land. I mean, you kept on saying, "Well, he's got you here, he's got you there, he's got two promotions." It didn't really matter. What he showed me throughout the season was just not good enough. And in the end, that's why perhaps it was strange that I actually processed it quite quickly. I was really disappointed. Obviously, I mean, if you fall at the final hurdle, it's immensely disappointing. But I could process it because I knew that Southampton were the better side, or at least they were the side who had the better coach. And in a sense, it made it slightly easier on the day as well. Southampton were hungrier, were better, were just more equipped to deal with that game. So in a sense, it the disappointment sort of wore off quite quickly. But ultimately, it's Daniel Farke, and sadly, he's going to be the coach again uh, this coming season, which is strange because he had, in my opinion, the best side that we've ever had in the championship. I would say that the second best side in the championship this season, this last season. And if he can't get that side up, how the hell is he going to get a far inferior side up this coming season? So we'll sort of see. We'll see.
Yeah, look, I mean, I can see you wanted to get it off your chest for quite some time because you didn't even give it the whole like, subscribe, and share, and all that nonsense. But so anyway, we will dive straight back in. I mean, look, let's dive into the topic because you're right. We want to discuss it. I was happy to discuss it, to be fair, on the day it happened on the day after, but thought I'd give you a little bit of time just to digest it. Yeah, I mean, look, really difficult game. I didn't watch it. I will be honest. But from what I follow, Leeds were good up until the goal. It would appear, and then I think in the second half they really did struggle in there until I think James hit the bar. Was it near the end?
Hmm.
And apart from him, according to those who watched and the reports that I read, apart from him showing a little bit of desire, a bit of spirit, and what have you, and trying to make things happen. There wasn't much else, unfortunately, from the Leeds perspective. You do say that Daniel Farke, look, he should have got you promoted, and I still will maintain that they were the third best team in the league because they finished third after 46 games, and it's enough of a barometer. The playoffs is somewhat of a lottery, especially in a one-off game. They were well worthy of coming through their semi-final. Obviously, putting the game to bed at half-time pretty much against Norwich. But look, it must have been devastating. Let's be honest. There's such a finality about that game in terms of getting up to the big time. They must have been devastating. What were your emotions as you kind of follow the game and then immediately after full time?
I mean, you talked about it. We were good for about 10 minutes, and I say good. We weren't outstanding. We just had more of the play, but thereafter, they just took complete control. It just seemed that they were better prepared, and their key players turned up. Adam Armstrong, uh, at the end of the day, he's one of the best players in the championship, and he proved it. He scored, and it was quite easy, quite comfortable. And Fart was just found wanting his changes. It seemed that he was bereft of ideas, and this is the problem. I mean, our big players. I don't know. I mean, I Somerville was the championship player of the year, but his attitude perhaps isn't always on point. Uh, and he was way off it. He was off it. Nonto was off it. Uh, Joe Peru, he's a passenger. Many games he's been a passenger. He was a passenger again. Rutter sort of had flashes, but again, these are players that if you're gonna win games of football, these are the players that will win you games of football. If they're out of touch, then really we struggle, and that's unfortunately the reality. Daniel Farke just relied on the front four, just having a moment of inspiration, moment of brilliance. If it doesn't happen, he had no idea what to do, and that was the problem. Southampton, Martin had Southampton very organised. They were clinical, they were sharp, and they recruited well as well. They had Flynn Downs from West Ham, absolutely magnificent, real Rolls Royce of a midfield player, something that we sadly lack. And again, I'll go back to Farke and the reason why I was so critical of Farke. We could have had one of the best midfield combinations in Archie Gray and Ethan Ampadu, but this coach, for some reason, decided that he'll play Ampadu for virtually the whole season at the back, and he'll play Archie Gray right back. And really, it's decisions like that. He makes late changes. His tactics, really, I'm not quite sure what his tactics are, because a lot of it is just passing sideways. So I was, as I said, I was very, very disappointed, but in a sense, it was, the disappointment wasn't as intense as I thought it might be, because I just thought that you've got a manager who's probably one of the worst coaches in English football. And I go as far as that, Daniel Farke. Seriously, I don't say that just to get a reaction. I genuinely mean that. I think he is one of the worst coaches in English football, because he is bereft of ideas. He has this simple philosophy of expecting his best players to come up with a moment of magic. That's not coaching. That's not coaching at all. That's just, it's potluck. It's hoping for the best. I was disappointed, but it was, as I said, it was strange. It took me probably about 48 hours before I was at peace with it, purely because I knew that Martin was a much better coach. He had a team that was well prepared, well drilled, and unfortunately, we had a team that has the capabilities, but a coach that really he should not be coaching under 13s. That's how poor I rate Daniel Farke. So for me, the reason why we didn't get promoted simply is down to Daniel Farke. I think his incompetence, his lack of coaching acumen, ultimately led to why we didn't get promoted.
Yeah, I strongly disagree. I mean, I don't follow it, but I just see football differently to you. If you had come 8th, 7th, fine, you'd probably have a point. But they came within a couple of points of getting automatic promotion. So you can't say that the reason why they didn't get promoted was simply because of the incompetence of the coach. Incompetence suggests that you failed miserably. You didn't fail miserably. You fell just short. So it does make a difference. If he had the best squad and they hadn't got promoted, by, again, not making the playoffs or not coming anywhere close, I'd absolutely be with you saying, look, he's got to be much better, especially given the fact that they just got relegated last year, right? Yeah, if you look at the teams, especially two of the three, Leicester, Southampton, obviously getting promoted now, were in the Premiership last year. So you'd expect, and Leeds obviously came within essentially a game, or obviously, being part of that as well. But look, the point I'm just simply making is they came up short in the very, very last game. And over the course of 46 games, what was the points difference between Leeds and Southampton? A few, right? It must have been a few.
It makes no difference. Yeah, I mean, it was a few points
fine,
different.
fine. But all I'm saying is the playoff scenario, Ayub, let me be very clear. I don't want to go too kind of big picture here. The playoff picture within the championship is simply for commercial reasons. There's nothing stopping the championship if they really wanted to say the top 3 teams will get promoted. We don't have a relegation playoff in the Premiership, do we? Where 18th plays 17th just to determine after 38 games who's going to get relegated. No, it's the straight bottom 3 done. In the championship, the reason why it's the top 2 and then the playoff picture is simply for commercial reasons. Becomes a huge extravaganza. Wembley gets to pay off some of the debt that it's got. All I'm simply getting at is I'm not saying that's a subject for another day. I'm not saying, I don't think it's the main issue here. I'm simply saying after 46 games, Leeds were better than Southampton. Now you might say that doesn't matter. Yeah, that's because in a one-off game anything can happen. And I agree. Leeds are not a million miles better than Southampton. The points differential was fairly small, but Leeds were the 3rd best team. I don't agree with this whole, just because in another one-off game you lost narrowly. I mean, you didn't. By the way, you didn't lose comfortably in that game. You might say Southampton had more control.
I think we lost comfortably. Yeah, I think we lost comfortably.
It was
a 1-0. But you just on the point.
Hang on, you say it was comfortable 1-0, but you hit the bar in the last 10, 12 minutes.
Again, if you look at the entirety of the game, we were second best virtually the whole game. We didn't lay a glove.
Fine, you, but you know this, in a one-off game of football, when the stakes are at their absolute highest, teams don't always perform. You saw Real Madrid, how they performed in the first half. Dortmund could have been well out of sight. We'll discuss it. it happens because the stakes are at its highest. Over the course of now, if Real Madrid played Dortmund over 10 games, I know and listen, Real Madrid won at the end. I don't want to talk too much about the Champions League. All I'm coming from is you make it out as if Leeds failed miserably. What I'm suggesting is they fell just short. There's a difference. Now you might say the end justifies the means, but he must have been doing something right in those first 45 minutes against Norwich, or you're not giving him any credit for that either.
I'm not giving him any credit at all. I won't, because his tactic was sold. I mean, I talked about this throughout. Every time that we did a podcast when we talked about Leeds, I made a similar comment. So it's not something that I'm suddenly talking about. He was against Norwich. Norwich were poor. I mean, you can turn around and sort of say it was good tactically. Away from home, he played a slightly different system, much more defensive in the home fixture. All that happened was our sort of star players performed.
Yes, but you guess
That-
what?
that's-
Yes, but guess what? Tactics is not 100% the be all and end all. It isn't.
I think
No, absolutely not. It is absolutely. You're watching the wrong sport if you think that's the case. Tactics and tactical acumen and the ability to then implement those tactics to a successful degree on the pitch is one facet of managerial capability. The other facet is also making sure your players feel comfortable enough to express themselves in a game of football. That is also a managerial style. The fact that players, you feel that it's just your top players that simply won you the game against Norwich. Well, guess what? That's an art of management, simply allowing players the freedom to perform in the games as they see fit. It's not the coach saying, I'll absolve myself of all responsibility and talent will win out. Sometimes managers also need to get out of their own way and their own ego and put that to one side and say, we're just a better team than Norwich. Over 180 minutes, I'm pretty confident that will prove itself out. It's why he approached the first game the way he did, and it's why he approached the second game the way he did. So over the course of 180 minutes, if you're confident that you're a better team than Norwich, which you were in the Championship by at least 12, 15 points, I don't know what it was at the end, and that proved itself out with a 4-0 win or whatever it was over 2
Well,
legs.
yeah, there you go. I mean, that was the thing, because the Championship is not like the Premier League, where it's obviously it's a much higher standard. In the Championship, Norwich, I mean, they sacked the manager straight after the game. So in a sense, that tells you that Norwich were very disappointed. It was a disappointing season. They were quite fortunate to finish top six because they sort of sneaked into the top six. So we were lucky that we played Norwich. Southampton beat us
You're
in
not
the
lucky.
in the end.
You're not lucky you played Norwich. Because when you finish third, and the playoff scenario always tells you that you're going to play the team that's sixth, you've earned the right to have a slightly easier first game. That's how it works. So you're not lucky.
But it's never
design.
a guarantee. It is never a guarantee that the sixth team, because usually what tends to happen in Championship is that there will be a team that will make a late run. They'll just sneak into six, but it's the form side. So it's not always the case. But in terms of when we played Norwich, it was, I'd probably say that you didn't really need too much coaching. It just so happened that we were the better side. Norwich weren't a great side. They've not been a good side all season. And I would have just expected just the quality that we had. But in saying that, we've obviously lost games against teams that we should have beaten easily. So that quality is always a guarantee that we're going to win games. But Southampton, in the end, they've beaten us 3 times this season. Martin's always had the better of Daniel Farke. Daniel Farke is a much more experienced coach.
You beat Leicester twice. You beat Leicester twice.
But again, we beat Leicester, but it wasn't comprehensive. I mean, the second one at Ellen Road, that was divine intervention, because it's
so when Leeds have some prosperity, it's divine intervention. When they lose, it's because the manager doesn't know what he's doing.
No. I've talked about this all season, that when you have the tools that right. Daniel Farke, well, no, when Daniel Farke has the tools, he had the second best squad. Now you think about it: Somerville, the Championship Player of the Year; Archie Gray, the Young Player of the Year. You've got Ethan Ampadu, an absolute steal at 7 million. We've got Joe Roden, who was magnificent. So you've got sprinkling of quality players that are far too good in theory for the Championship. I got to be honest, I would have fancied my chances as a coach of those players to get automatic promotion, because they were comfortably the second best squad in the Championship. If you're the second best squad, you expect the coach to at least finish second. Now,
No,
Ipswich.
that
No,
that
no,
that
no,
that,
no. But
that
that's
would
the way it should be.
that would be par for the course. I mean, I don't
Yeah.
see. I mean, and the idea of this second best squad. Where's the? Just tell me which website can I visit to objectively see that metric that you've decided that Leeds had the second best squad? It's a subjective
It's
assessment.
it's subjective, but really, if you know football, especially in the Championship, it's not the highest of standard because it tells you teams that go up, all three teams that went up came down. So the standard isn't high. So therefore, when you've got players that have played in the Premier League, when you've got players who are internationals, Nonto is an international, young player but an international. Somerville was the Championship Player of the Year. Roden's a Welsh international. Ampadu a Welsh international. Conor Roberts a Welsh international. Dan James a Welsh international. Dan James 25 million. Somerville will probably be sold for about 30 million plus. We've got Rutter 35 million. So all of this evidence tells you that these are players who are perhaps a level above the Championship. Daniel Farke, he's had 2 promotions as well. So really, you would have expected a coach with 2 promotions. The team that he's got at his disposal, it should have been a walk in the park. He absolutely bottled it.
How so?
How so?
How should it be a walk in the park? I mean, they got relegated last year. I mean, they
Yeah.
finished, God knows where they finished, 19th or whatever it was. And if you think about it, the reverse positions, they came about just where they were. Like
Well, yeah,
third seems about kind of right. Second or third, fine. They fell just short, and they fell short in the biggest game there is to be played in the Championship. Like, I don't believe in these blanket assessments suggesting, because I know 100% you would not have given him that much credit if you'd gone through. I just know you. You'd have been like, yeah, it's because our player produced a 30-yard free kick. I mean, Carlo Ancelotti on Saturday, do you think he designed that corner the way he designed that corner for the set piece? Because let's be honest, the first half, that was also, but no, we give Carlo Ancelotti his proper credit. I'm just saying, like, you don't give Daniel Farke any credit whatsoever for his promotion. You don't give him any credit whatsoever. And I believe he'll have a good chance of getting himself promoted next year, and you won't give him any credit then either.
no, if he gets us promoted next season, I'll give him unbelievable credit because he will have a much weaker squad.
Correct.
Somerville's going, Nonto's going. Maybe there's going to be a few others. Archie Gray's going to go as well. So he's going to have a new team.
Fair, but you will replenish at least based on Championship standards, because you'll get the best of the Championship players for sure. I mean, come on, you're going to be reinvesting some of those funds. You're right. Listen, you are going to lose players. That was the major upshot of the game, right? The reaction after the game. Not disagreeing with you there, but you'll still be able to get comfortable, competent Championship level players. Let's be clear, and it's still Leeds United Football Club.
Well, you'd think we'd get decent players for the Championship, but again, it's going to be tough. But again, just going back to the game, I'll pause it to you again. You're a coach of a side that's playing in a one-off playoff final. The player of the season in the Championship is Somerville. He's had an awful game, but he's the one player that has had many moments of magic, not just with goal scoring, but with assists as well. Would you, as a coach, take that player off, irrespective of how bad he's been, bearing in mind what the game is and what's at stake?
I don't have the ego within myself to understand and believe what I've seen in training, how he's feeling. Is he fatigued? Was he carrying something heading into the game? There's various different aspects that you have to give the coach that discretion to make that call.
That's
Otherwise,
nonsense. That's
nonsense. No, absolutely not. Because you can't, for example, look, so many times we can second guess managers, but the manager sees the player literally every single day. And he's made a judgment call. If you're not going to allow your manager to make a judgment call, you're right. He must have been thinking the exact same thing. I promise you, he's not incompetent. He'll have been thinking the same thing. To use one of your phrases, he's my gun player. He's performed admirably for me throughout the season, producing many moments of magic. He'd have thought, do I leave him on because he's still capable of producing that moment of magic, or do I bring some fresh legs because for whatever reason he's struggling because of the game, the stakes, the form, or whether or not the opposition, whatever it is, the coach has to be allowed the discretion to make that call. You can't play armchair support and say he should have done this and he should have done that. At least give him the out that he's seen the guy in training literally every single day and he gets to make that call. That's all I'm saying.
Has he not watched him whole season?
Yeah,
he's the one player.
That's why he started the game.
He's the one player that even when he's playing poorly, he's capable of a moment of magic. Now, I don't I don't buy that at all. I think that's again gross incompetent. He had Joel Pirro, who was awful, absolutely awful. We've got this young buck, Matteo Joseph, who's chomping at the bit. When he's had game time, he comes on for 5 minutes, 10 minutes. He's always impressive. He's sharp. He's a genuine centre forward. Joel Pirro is not a genuine number 9. Again, it's Joel Pirro's poor, but he keeps him on. He takes off Nonto as well. Again, another player who's capable of a moment of magic. There's too many of these decisions that Farke has made. Not everybody in the fan base can be wrong. If you went through social media, the bile that was directed towards Daniel Farke, and rightly so as well, because we all know what he's done previously. His substitutions were always very late. He sometimes brings on play for 5 minutes. We're chasing a game. What is a player going to do in 5 minutes? This is the thing you see. As I've followed Leeds all season, and Daniel Farke has shown me nothing. And I've been consistent in my criticism, and I think it's been vindicated. I said that this man is incapable of getting the best out of this team in terms of his coaching ability. What he just hopes for is that these players will play well. When it mattered, when his coaching was really put to the test, he had no answers. We had this wonderful run when we were 17 points behind Leicester. In a sense, it was almost, well, we've got nothing to lose. As soon as we got to first position or in the top 2, that's when he needed to start using a little bit of psychology as well. These players crumbled. They folded. He couldn't come up with anything which made Leeds cope with the expectation and the pressure. Every time that he's been challenged, he's failed. So nobody's gonna convince me otherwise. Farke I think he's an abject coach. He's a poor coach. I think he's 2 relegations in the Premier League. His awful season with Mönchengladbach is testimony to that. I think everybody talks about the 2 promotions. He kept on going about 90 points, as if somehow that is an indication of how great a coach he is. I don't care if we had 150 points. If you don't go up automatically, those points mean nothing. And that's
150 points would have got you promoted.
Oh yeah, obviously. You know I'm being flippant.
Not sure you'd have had to get 3.5 points a game or something as well. But okay, fair enough. Look, yeah, I think. Look, I know you're disappointed, so I'm not going to patronize you and suggest that you shouldn't feel disappointed. But I just genuinely think we see football differently, very differently.
Right. Well, I mean, I see it. I think with a vast majority of Leeds fans, and there's lots of social media content creators who are sort of vlogging about Leeds, who are saying exactly the same thing, and they've been probably saying similar things to what I've been saying. That with all the talent at his disposal, how he couldn't get this side automatically promoted is beyond me. And it should be a damning indictment on Farke's coaching ability. But let's sort of move on. We'll sort of see what next season brings. A little bit of good news in the
We're
fact
not
that
discussing
Red
Leeds
Bull.
next year. We're not discussing
No,
Leeds next year.
no, we'll always have that 5-10 minutes. But Red Bull, I mean that there are some fans who are slightly disappointed with the small acquisition Red Bull have made, but I'm really confident. I think that could be a really positive sign. So I'm optimistic. I'm hopeful. I'm looking forward to really now who we recruit. I know who we're going to sell. I just hope we don't sell Archie Gray. We need to at least keep him for 1 season, but let's see what happens. All right, so that's enough about Leeds. Hopefully next season, I'll be talking about Leeds in a positive way and Farke in a positive way. I don't think so, but let's hope so. Right then, Uwais, that's enough about Leeds. What do you want to talk about? Your Arsenal?
Also, we didn't get a chance, did we? After the Premier League finished, I thought it would be good just to cover it just very quickly. Yeah, overriding emotion with Man City deservedly. I mean, in the end, the points are the points. Winning the Premier League title, I guess in some ways it was disappointing for neutrals in the sense that Man City scored obviously so early against West Ham. There was a moment obviously just before half time where obviously Kudus with that amazing goal, you thought, oh, there could be something here, because I think Arsenal equalised against Everton at the same time. But of course, those who know, once City had scored those couple of early ones, and we're pretty kind of solid control. You thought that was that, and it proved to be the case. Second half, West Ham didn't lay a glove. What I was pleased about from an Arsenal perspective, just on the last day, not that you might say it matters, but I was pleased that they won. It was really important for me that they won, just because you want to finish off with a win. For me, finishing 2 points behind is different to finishing 5 behind, 4 behind. That's just me. The fact is, last year I think they finished with 84 points. I know you'll moan at me for going up about this points total, but they were a better team this year, so they are progressing. Whether they progress into the point where they can win the Premier League title, they came down close. Just like I said, that they had a good chance of doing so the season before. Just because my eyes tell me that Arsenal are a very good team. Look, in the end, honestly, genuinely pretty pleased with how the season went. Not bothered about not winning a trophy. I know Manchester United did. You can maybe ask me about that later.
I'm coming to that later on. I will
I'm
come
sure
to
you
that.
are. I'm sure you are. But look, Arsenal, incredible season. I've got no gripes about it. I wish in some ways that they'd had the vertical threat in the Champions League games to maybe overcome Bayern Munich, because that would have been really interesting to see if they could have gotten to the final. I'm not saying they would have. I'm just wishing that second leg. It obviously came shortly after the Villa defeat, if you remember. I just think there was an avenue there for them to maybe get to the final. Again, I think there's just that last little bit that's left with Arsenal in terms of their attacking, what I would call not just potency, but in terms of speed and kind of ruthlessness that you need sometimes in terms of the ability to play fast, let's say, on the attack. Otherwise, in terms of control, they have a lot of the main solid foundations. But look, great job by the manager. Hope he stays for many years. He's obviously discussing a contract that'll put him with the best paid bosses in Europe. Got no qualms with that. I think he's earned it. Genuinely say that. He's literally revolutionized that club in terms of over the last 3 to 4 years. We forget where Arsenal were, pretty much in the doldrums. They now have an incredible squad, let's be honest. Some of the best young players in the world, some of the best players in the world, I would say. Some players who I think will shine, hopefully, in the European Championships. But look, he's a good coach. He's a hungry coach. I really think they pushed City close, and he was a fundamental reason. I mean, you have your gripes about Farke, but I think no one can dispute that Arteta spearheading that kind of challenge for Arsenal. The disappointment didn't genuinely last that long. Of course, you always want to win. But I think there was an understanding going into that last game that perhaps the ship had sailed with that Man City win against Spurs, even though you still have to play the game. So from an Arsenal perspective, very pleased, very happy that they amassed, obviously, the points total that they did. They're in amongst the big time, if I can say that. And it wasn't always the case. And they've got every chance next year of going again. Of course, you've still got to earn it over 38 games, which is the journey that Arsenal will have to show. They can't get complacent. They can't think, well, it's just going to be us and City because Klopp has left Liverpool and Spurs are going through a transition and United are going. You can't be like that. It has to be. You've got to earn it over 38 games. And I think over 38 games, they earned the right to be as close as they could be to Man City. Ultimately, you've got to give credit to Manchester City for winning their 4th Premier League title in a row. So no qualms. Got over the disappointment, honestly, relatively quickly. I didn't even think about it that much the day after. But I do think they deserve credit, to be fair.
I mean, I don't know whether that's a consensus with Arsenal fans because you always seem to be quite pragmatic in your approach. You seem to be quite balanced. I don't know. I mean, as I said, I'm not sure what the mass of the Arsenal supporters will be saying. But again, I think you're absolutely right. I think he's done a phenomenal job. I think Arteta is an outstanding coach, outstanding young coach, which is where my disappointment would be if I was an Arsenal supporter, because I would sort of say that they are. I'd still. I mean, I've already said this before, and I'll say it again. I think they are, in terms of the Premier League, the most complete football side. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean they're the best side, but I think in terms of all bases, they've got the most complete football side. I would be very disappointed that it's a season without anything again. And that's where the frustration is, because ultimately sport's about winning, especially if you've got a good team. It's about winning things. I mean, we sort of briefly talked about Manchester United. Manchester United, I mean, we've criticised them all season, but in the end, they've won a trophy and an excellent performance as well. So I know it's a stupid thing to say, but I always sort of say that ultimately I'll judge a team by what they've won in a season. I would go as far as saying, you know what I'm going to say?
Don't say it.
In terms of the way that I view sport, Manchester United have had a more successful season than the Arsenal. Now, go on, you can do your rant, but surely,
It's not a rant. It's not a rant. I'm just saying.
but again,
It's not a rant.
it's
But it's not a rant. But they're about to change their manager. Why?
but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I mean, do you think? I don't know. I think
Why? Why
uh,
are they going to change their manager, and why are we about to make our manager the best paid, one of the best paid in Europe? Just answer me that question.
that's not
Answer me that question.
because they know ultimately that the season that they had, because the league is important. It's not just
Finish that sentence.
hear me out. Hear me out. It's Manchester United have to be serious contenders for the league, or at least that's part of the identity of Manchester United. For a long time, they haven't, and that's what they're looking for. They're not just looking for a team that wins a trophy, a cup trophy, but it's about the league as well. So ultimately, what United have decided is that Ten Hag is not best equipped to deal with a serious title attempt at the league. And
why
that's really
why do they put so much emphasis on that objective about competing in the Premier League title?
because that's really what it should be all about, in the sense that
Don't use the word should.
yeah,
Don't pass your words.
but
Don't pass your words.
but
Because of
yeah,
you. That is what it's about.
but it's not just a case of right, okay, we'll keep on finishing second. Ultimately, it's about winning trophies as well.
Are you Manchester United? I could be wrong, but they finished with negative goal difference.
Doesn't matter. As I said, it doesn't matter.
No. What it tells you is that they were a bang average team this year. A bang
Which
average
is
team.
the reason.
Which is the reason.
That produced a
really good performance. That produced a really good performance in the FA Cup. And let's not get it twisted. I don't want to come across. I swear, I try and be fair and balanced. They absolutely deserve to win the FA Cup final. I thought it was an inspired performance by Man United, one that showed incredible tactical acumen from Erik Ten Hag. I think Guardiola admitted as much even afterwards that he didn't quite get the tactics right. Fair play to him. Fair play to Ten Hag. I think he deserved his moment in the sun. I think it was a nice sunny day at Wembley as well. Did they catch Man City off after some of their celebrations? I don't want to read too much into that. You win, you deserve all the plaudits. And Man United deserve credit for that day. They deserve to win a game of football. But he's going to lose his job, Ayub, most likely. And there's a reason. It's because in the objective, they can clearly see that there's not enough signs of progress to suggest that he deserves staying on. Now, let's see. I still think he probably will lose his job. I'm not saying he's right or wrong, but it's because United have assessed that they've had an unsuccessful season. Yet you seem to indicate that United have been more successful this year than Arsenal, when there's zero metric, even aside from the FA Cup, which I could not care about in terms of it.
You could not care about, but ultimately, as a fan, it's about winning trophies.
No, it's not that I don't care about the FA Cup. Let me finish. What I don't care about is how that's... Ayub, we're not 8, we're not 12. We understand how football works. The objective of any big team is to compete for the Premier League title. And that's why if you're not competing for the Premier League title, you failed on that objective. Chelsea Football Club, Liverpool Football Club, Manchester United Football Club, Arsenal Football Club, Man City, they're all the same. If you're a big football club, you have to be competing for the Premier League title. Now, you'll say whichever team's won it, the other 6 have failed. But no one FA Cup triumph just because it's over one game of football. Next, you'll be saying to me, "Oh, City won 1 trophy, United won 1 trophy." So actually, it's pretty much the same. They both were pretty much had the same successful season. Go on, I'll let you put that point across if you want.
No, I still sort of say that yes. I mean, it's ultimately you will have to be, if you're one of the top teams, you've got to be competing for the Premier League, because that is the stellar prize. So there's no doubt about that in my mind. But ultimately, also, it's about winning things. It's not just about winning the Premier League, because only one team can win the Premier League. Same with the FA Cup, same with the Carabao Cup. You've got to be, as a team, you have to be winning trophies, because at the moment, what's he won? What has Arteta won?
He's won an FA Cup. He's won an FA Cup. And look, I don't think this idea that you have to be winning trophies. No, absolutely not. I can tell you right here, right now, I don't know what the Arsenal fans will think, but even I would go as far as to say that if this is, you might say I'm going too far, but if Mikel Arteta, if Arsenal had a slightly down year, finished behind, let's say, the eventual winners by 12, 14 points, I'd look at that season, assess it, and say if we're still, as long as we're still trending, or it was a bit of an outlier because of critical injuries to certain players or what have you, I'd be like, yeah, no issues, 100% approval rate. You go again and you go again. Because this idea that every team is entitled to win the trophy, no. But if you're a big club, you should be competing. You should be competing. You should be pushing. That's a given. You're a big club. Arsenal for many years failed on that metric, and they cycle obviously worked through the last couple of years of Wenger. Obviously, Emery didn't quite work out, and Arteta clearly has taken them back to the big time. Some might say, well, he spent a lot of money. I'd say, yeah, he spent it well for the most part. And
I agree.
And without spending, you're not going to be able to get anywhere anyway. So the point I'm just making is, only one team can win it. Man City deservedly won it. Full credit to them. But anybody who's suggesting that Arsenal and Man United are at the same stage of their footballing journey right now in terms of their ascension to the big time is, as Roy Keane would say, in the cow cuckoo land.
No, but nobody's saying that. I wasn't saying that. I was just saying in terms of if we look at
who's had a better season.
Manchester United, they've won a trophy. Simple as that. Simple as that. Mine is ultimately, if you don't win the Premier League, right? Arsenal are competing for the Premier League. Absolutely, yes. Are they one of the best sides? Absolutely, yes. But in the end, they didn't win anything. So therefore, the metric I use is, right, who's won something? Now, if United hadn't won the FA Cup, hands down, Arsenal have had much the better season because obviously they've finished second. And they've been much the better side. But ultimately, when in 10 years' time, when people look at this season, are they going to say, oh, yeah, Arsenal finished second, they were really good? They'll just go through the season's honours.
But who cares?
Well, fans.
No, because fans don't care.
You talk about as if you're the spokesman for the Arsenal fans. I'm sure you're not.
Okay, so who won the FA Cup in 2014?
I look.
Oh, you don't know, do you?
No,
that's what I mean. You don't know. That proves my point.
No, but if you're a supporter of a club that's won the FA Cup, you'll certainly know those.
It doesn't matter.
But again, it's. I mean, obviously these are our opinions, but I'd be intrigued to find out what Arsenal fans in general think. Are they thinking exactly like you, or are they frustrated?
Ayub, it doesn't make them right. That's my point. Just let me finish off.
It doesn't make you right.
It doesn't make me right as well. Fine, agreed, understood. Because what is right? It's an opinion. You can't be right with an opinion. Ultimately, it's not a statement of fact. The point is, you're gonna laugh at me because I'm always going deep. But we as human beings always want what makes us feel nice, what makes us feel warm and fuzzy inside. And guess what makes us warm and fuzzy inside, especially when it comes to our football clubs? Winning, and then winning some more. That's all we care about because it makes us feel nice. It makes us feel comfortable, takes some of the stresses away from the Monday to Friday grind, any other stresses we have in life. It makes us feel wonderful. It just gives us that nice fluffy feeling when your team's won. Absolutely. I know many of people that share the exact same sentiment. I don't even disagree with it because that's what sport should be about. That's what fandom is about. But what it doesn't mean, and because of that ultimate feeling, we always feel that when we then come short of that feeling, suddenly it's someone else's fault. Oh, we need to blame this. Oh, why is this happening? All that. All I'm simply getting at, if you look at it objectively, given that Arsenal have no divine right to win trophies, the fact that Arsenal are back competing in the big time is something that was not a guarantee 4 or 5 years ago. The fact that this manager has done it, especially in my lifetime, he deserves immense credit. I'm not somebody who's self-entitled like you and those other Leeds fans blogging and all the rest of it that suggests that, oh, we've got to be winning stuff and why are we not winning stuff? No. I'm measured because ultimately you can only control being able to compete because there's enough quality players out there. There's enough good tactical acumen, coaching and all of the rest of it that you can do. And Arsenal have the infrastructure and the resources and the training ground and all of that and the money and the finances to be able to compete with the best. They are competing with the best. So for me, he's met his objective. The fact that he's then hopefully, and I say this, hopefully, going on to win stuff for sure would be the cherry on the cake. There's no disputing that. But this idea that he's falling short, and especially when you have people like Simon Jordan, I mean, God bless him. I love listening to him because I will listen to each and every opinion. But when he's suggesting that somehow Arteta is going to come under question whether he's the man to lead Arsenal to title glory, it makes me chuckle because I'm thinking, that's such a sense of self-entitlement, this idea that he has to deliver Arsenal a Premier League title, otherwise we'll have to go in a different direction. No, sign me up for this Mikel Arteta for the next 5, maybe 10 years. He won't be at Arsenal for 10 years, probably won't be at Arsenal for 5 years. But let's not forget, these are actual good times for Arsenal Football Club. These are actual good times. And if it means another near finish next year, so be it, because there's no one else that's pushing City as close as Arsenal are and as Liverpool have in previous times. It's all relative. Nobody has a divine right to win the Premier League title, are you? Let's not
Well,
forget
that's your
that.
thoughts. I'd love to hear what the viewers think. So please, on this subject, is OS right? Is it really just about progress? Because there is no question Arsenal are progressing. They are a much better side than they were last year.
It's about
But
competing for the Premier League title, and that's what they do.
well, that's what OS is saying. So I'd love to hear your views on what defines a great season, a good season. Is it about winning pots? Is it just about sort of competing? Is that enough? So please uh, put a comment in. Give us your thoughts on what you consider a successful season should be. And if you agree with us or whether you agree with me. All right, on to Matters Champions League, the ultimate club game. Surprise finalists in Dortmund. Never expected Dortmund to be in the final, but sort of deservedly there. At the end of the day, they beat the opposition that was in front of them. They played the mighty Real Madrid. A lot of people were presuming it was going to be a one-sided affair. That it certainly wasn't. On another day, maybe a more clinical Dortmund perhaps would have pulled off a real shock and a surprise. So, what was your thoughts on the game? Did you watch the game?
Yeah, I did watch the game. I watched the game in the bar on the main bar where I watch all the Arsenal games as well. It was absolutely packed out. Amazing atmosphere. Real Madrid fans, Dortmund fans. It's truly like it was a sensational atmosphere. I wish there were more goals just so to see the sheer excitement of just just the various different crowds. Obviously, the Real Madrid fraternity happy in the end, but incredible atmosphere. Great game in some ways. I mean, let me rephrase that. I didn't necessarily think in terms of as a spectacle, it was an amazing game, but just you felt the drama, and in some ways you felt if Dortmund did get that first goal, which they probably should have done, on the kind of happenings of that first half, Ayub, I question whether or not Real Madrid actually would have been able to reverse that. I felt Real, especially in the first half, were one paced, very safe in terms of their play, created nothing. Let's be honest, next to nothing in that first half. I think nothing actually. I can't think of anything that the Dortmund goalkeeper had to do. I thought they were very safe, as though let's just make sure when our moment comes, we take it. And I don't mind that approach in finals because I think the stakes are so high. Mistakes can lead to being goal down, and suddenly the game plan can unravel in some ways. The one thing I would say about Ancelotti, and I hope you're not going to bring Daniel Farke into this conversation, but the one thing I would say is in that first half when Dortmund should have scored, should have been ahead. The one aspect I thought Ancelotti did really well was in that second half, he moved Valverde a lot central, and it just gave them enough energy in the middle of the park, and they nullified Dortmund for the best part of the whole second half. I thought Real Madrid were pretty much in the ascendancy. It's not to say Real Madrid, you thought they were going to score any second now, of course not, but you just saw that little tilt towards Real, starting to dominate the ball a bit more, starting to recycle the ball, a lot more winning second balls. And I thought that was mainly because of Valverde being shifted into the centre rather than that conventional 4-4-2 that they were playing in the first half. Also, I thought Camavinga had an incredible game. I actually thought Cruz struggled, albeit in his swan song. In the first half, I thought second half he obviously had an imprint on the game on the first goal, but in the first half he was caught wanting a number of times, watching it closely. So look, I think Real just played the percentages. They said, look, if we are strong enough and can keep that clean sheet, we'll get a moment. And I always felt they would get a moment. And look, many a big game is decided on a set piece. Dortmund will absolutely be hurting that it was a set piece that kind of put them behind the eight ball. And then obviously a mistake at the back, and then Bellingham to Vinicius, scruffy finish, but they all count. And then the game was pretty much done, wasn't it? Yes, you thought there might be a grandstand finish, but he was just offside for Krug. So look, I thought Real Madrid incredible. This love affair that they have with this competition is just something, I mean, it's something to behold. It's incredible. 15 Champions Leagues or European Cups. Incredible. The amount of things, it's 6 and 11 or however many Champions Leagues it is. They are the most unbelievable team in terms of the relationship that they have with this competition. Again, some may argue they weren't even the best team this year, but there's just something about having to beat Real over two legs. City did it quite convincingly last year. Couldn't do it, obviously, this year when over the two legs City were probably still the better team, you felt. So, yeah, look, there's something about that kind of stubbornness that Real Madrid have, that feeling of, listen, this is our competition, this is what we do. You did feel there was a sense of inevitability about Saturday night. In the end of how it happened might have been a little different to how people anticipated, but incredible for Bellingham winning the Spanish La Liga, winning the Champions League. He'll be obviously hoping that he does big things for England at the European Championships. For Dortmund, obviously a huge opportunity. You're right, they were there on merit. You wonder whether or not they'll be able to come back. They had a pretty abject Bundesliga campaign. So yeah, interested to see how they fare next season. But Real Madrid, what can you say? And actually quite incredible for Toni Kroos, just very quickly to finish off in that way. He's obviously retiring at the age of 34. He's still got probably a couple of years in himself where he could be a good squad player, let's say. He's still producing the good starts in a Champions League final. Ancelotti wouldn't just do that out of sentiment. He started him because he believes he's the man for the job. I thought the celebrations were incredible. His celebrations at the end of his last Spanish La Liga game with his family, I thought were beautiful as well, to be honest with you. Clearly a well-liked individual. He'll obviously be playing for Germany in the European Championships. I think he came out of retirement, so he'll be playing for Germany there. It'd be interesting to see. But retiring, I mean, as you say, at the very top, really. And one final point, the rich do get richer, because they'll be shortly announcing Kylian Mbappe to the kind of squad. I mean, incredible. It'll be interesting to see how they fit around that. But of course, they'll be now strong favourites for not just La Liga, but I would argue they'll probably be with the bookies favourites with City, perhaps next season as well, depending on how they kind of construct the rest of their squad. So yeah, incredible achievement. It's the biggest club of our lifetime, and it's right that they should have, not right, but it's cool in some ways that they have Champions League back in their back in their possession. So yeah, amazing game, amazing finish, and it's always great to see the celebrations at the end as well.
Yeah, I mean, you've summed it up absolutely spot on. I mean, I wasn't looking forward to the game in the sense that I thought it wasn't going to be a spectacle, but it turned out to be a really decent game. And again, it's moments, isn't it? Really key moments at the start of the game. Dortmund, you have to, because even if Real Madrid didn't play as well as they can do, and perhaps you're right, they weren't the best team. I mean, if you look at the sides that didn't make it to the final, Man City were. I maintain they were the better side than Real Madrid. But Real Madrid they've got a history, and they always find a way of winning games, important games of football, and that's exactly what they did. Again, it was when you're Dortmund, you know that when you get the opportunities, and these weren't half chances, these were great opportunities, good chances, but you knew the writing was on the wall. If you're not going to be clinical against a side like Real Madrid, they're going to hurt you, and they did. Not the way that you would have expected Real Madrid to hurt you, but they did. And I was delighted for Jude Bellingham, because he's a 20-year-old, but he's a phenomenon. He's an absolute giant of the game at 20 years of age. I just sort of think if there is anybody that you want to use as a template, Jude Bellingham is the guy, because I think he's just an exceptional talent. He's a generational talent. He just oozes class, and he just looks at home. He was born to play for Real Madrid. He was born to play for England. He was just born to be one of the world stars. And I think he's going to have a sensational European Championship as well. I think he's that good. And what I like about him is he's somebody that I think should be an example to players like Rashford. Do you know these guys that get sidetracked and become show business? I think Jude Bellingham will just get better and better, because I think he's so focused. He's got tremendous parents. He's a very a guy that appears to have his head screwed on perfectly, and it was wonderful to see as well. And again, this is something that I always look at, these little things that perhaps other people may not look at. He did an interview in Spanish, pretty fluent, at least it appeared to be quite fluent. And again, that just shows the type of mindset that he has. It's not just Stevie McManaman, he played, Michael Owen, all of these guys played for Real Madrid. I mean, this guy's been playing for no time at all, and he's speaking fluent Spanish. Again, it shows his mindset, that it's everything that he does, it's with commitment, with intent. So wonderful for Jude Bellingham, and I suppose, I mean, it the right team in the end won, perhaps, but Dortmund will be kicking themselves, because I'm not sure if they'll have the opportunity again, because they're not the best club side. I mean, they've done incredibly well, but I'm not sure if they're going to have the opportunities again in the next few years. So really, it was one of these where it's an opportunity that they couldn't afford to let slip, and really, it was an opportunity they let slip because they had the chances.
They had the opportunities, absolutely, and that's the thing, right? In these games where you've got to somehow seize the moment, and a lot of people would have felt the same thing, that Dortmund had to score the first goal. I genuinely think if they scored the first goal, I think Real would have found it really difficult. Let's not forget, they
Mm,
scored the first goal against PSG, and then just I think they kept 2 clean sheets right over the 2 legs. So I think it
yeah.
was a case of I really think they would have just sat in and said, right, break us down if you can. And Real have had some challenges this year. I mean, look, that's not to say it was guaranteed, but I just think Dortmund would have then said, right, we're not attacking, break us down.
Yeah.
And Real was just a little cautious, I felt. I mean, second half, like I said, they got in the ascendancy, but they weren't like knocking on the door where you thought, a goal's
Mm,
coming, a goal's coming, a goal's coming. Yes, after the first goal, suddenly things started to happen as Dortmund started to kind of chase a leveler. Just on Jude Bellingham, you're absolutely right. In all the interviews that I've heard him, he's always spoken really well, very courteous, very courteous. The reporter seems to be very kind of a happy person. He's not, in terms of he has that certain personality where he exudes or radiates
mm,
joy and enthusiasm. He's witty, he's funny. I think the way he's adapted at Real with some of those other superstars is testament to him, to your point, and testament to his
yeah.
character. It was nice to see him, you're right, with his family, giving the medal to his mom, joking around with Jose Mourinho, just certain things that
Yeah.
show you that he's relatively humble. You've seen some of the videos on YouTube where he's walking around clubs refusing to kind of step on other opposition club badges and crests on the floor and things like that. It's just a certain
Well,
kind of
that I've never been in, to be honest, really.
I
I
you
know
you
people do
you
that.
you
Uh,
say that you
it's
say
he
that
should
it's
be
a
on the
sign of
floor then.
respect.
He should. Well, I don't know. I've
Hang on,
always.
hang on. I'm not making a big deal out of it. What I'm simply saying is that he could either choose to step all over it or he chooses to walk around it. And chooses to walk around it. I'm just saying it's a sign of respect. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm getting. I'm not saying it's a big deal. I'm just saying it's but look,
All right.
he's for the age of 20, to your point about the language command as well, like he's making an effort. He sees this as not just a footballing move but a football move for himself. I mean, at an incredibly tender age, yet seems to be so mature. The only concern I
Mm,
have is he's played a lot of games this season. He's been one of the main men for Real Madrid, obviously finishing 1 goal behind Vinicius Jr., I think, in all competitions. But he's delivered so many big moments, winners, last-minute winners, scoring, deciding both El Clasicos. He's played so many big games, so many big moments. Played obviously a Champions League final where he was okay. I don't think it was great, but he was okay. Had a great opportunity where he missed a header, just above him. I just wonder whether or not playing all those games. You might say he's young, you can put up with it, but it's not just a physical toll of you; it's also the mental toll of playing big games, pressurized games, Champions League quarterfinals, semi-finals, playing, deciding taking penalties against Man City in that semi-final as well. So look, I just wonder how we'll cope with what will be a lot of pressure for England as well. So I'm just hoping that he doesn't have a slightly muted season. In some ways, I would have preferred him to have had a nice, clear run at these European Championships. But look, I think he'll be fine on the whole. England have a talented bunch, so let's see how they cope. But look, incredible effort from him, from the players. Just amazing to see Cruz celebrate with the rest of his players. Him and Modric and Casemiro in those early parts as well will go down as one of the best trios in terms of midfield, but especially him and Modric. Just amazing that they should spend such a long time playing with one another. I mean, incredible. Probably does rival to some extent Xavi Iniesta in that Barcelona heyday as well. So yeah, amazing from Real. Dortmund, felt sorry for them. They had big moments. I mean, big moments. When that player, when he went through, he just thought he was going to slot it under Courtois. Courtois is
mm.
he's just a big fella to go around,
Yeah.
and he ended up going kind of the long way around. But credit to Real, credit to Carlo Ancelotti. Hard to make the argument against him being the best in the world right now. He wins and he wins at a high clip, as they say. So, look, incredible by Real, Champions League, and I think with Mbappe coming, they'll feel really confident they can do it again next year.
Yeah. I think I can't wait for Mbappe to play alongside some of the better players that Real have got. I mean, no slight on PSG, but certainly it's a step up. So I think he's going to score goals for fun. I think he scored goals for fun at PSG. I think he's going to score even more goals at Real Madrid. So I'm looking forward to that.
I'm just thinking about just
okay.
very quickly. I'm just thinking about him, Vinicius, and even Bellingham to some extent. But him and I mean Vinicius for me is one of the best players in the world right now for sure. And you just think about him and Mbappe like playing in the same team, dovetailing on that left forward, and I'm just thinking about the speed on the counter. I mean, you dare not open up against this Real Madrid team where you're leaving gaps everywhere with those two galloping up the pitch. So no, look, the rich get richer. I think they should win the La Liga next year. And it'll be interesting to see how they fare in the Champions League, but they'll really fancy it.
I think they're favourites already. But that's for next season. So I think on that note, I think we'll call it a day. We've talked about quite a bit. But
well, it's the last time we speak about Leeds, so I think we did it justice.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. It depends on what happens, because obviously it's like the off season. There's always things happening, so there might be a reason for speaking about Leeds, but there has to be a good reason, right? But on the next one, I mean, we've talked about this before, but I think it would be remiss of us to not give some sort of tribute to Klopp. So on the next one, I think what we should do is dedicate the show to Klopp, because it was the leaving of a great coach and a great man as well. So I think we need to do it. Well, certainly from my point of view, I think I was quite sad and upset. So
did you see how nicely dressed he was at Wembley?
For the
Champions League final.
He looked 10 years young. He looked 10 years younger as well.
He looked the part, man. I think it looked like he had like a nice navy jumper, and I was like, oh, Klopp's dressing up for this. He looks the part. He does. But yeah.
Right, so we'll do that on the next one in a few days' time. But as always, a pleasure to speak football with you. Good to see you. I presume it's really hot in Dubai. I think it's in the 40s. You were telling me last time.
Yeah, it's in the 40s. My glasses steam up every time I walk out. They just steam up, which is an occupational hazard for those wearing spectacles. But no, it's getting warm, man. Like seriously, it's getting warm. If you're outside for any relative period of time, and I'm talking like even like 5-10 minutes, you feel like I need a shower. And apparently it's obviously only going to get worse. August is going to be at its peak, post 50 degrees.
Oh my goodness me!
Not the kind of challenges that we've had in the northwest of the UK.
Well, no, I'm sort of looking out the window. It's grim. It's grey. It's about 14-15 degrees. So it's typical England weather, isn't it, in June?
Typical England weather, indeed.
All right. So on that note, right, but before we go, do the usual: smash a like, share, all that kind of good stuff. And thanks for viewing. And we'll see you soon, and we'll do a Klopp special next time. All right. Take care. Ta-ta.